From east to west, we're all just trying to figure it out. We are the movement, and so are you. Is healthcare a right or a privilege? Apparently, Miss USA had some controversial thoughts on the topic. Jocelyn, did you watch last night?
No, I don't really, honestly, I don't really watch the pageants, but I was disappointed when I heard about what she said and I read about what she said. I was pretty disappointed about her point of view.
Why?
Why?
Well, because I tend to think that people should be entitled to health care. I think that, I don't like the way our country treats health care, and I think that it is a right to a certain degree for you to be healthy at the most vulnerable time in your life for you to get help. So,
but she works hard. She's very intelligent. She's a scientist. Yeah, I'm glad a really pretty sister won. And she's intelligent. She's a scientist. She works hard. So she works hard for her health care. I have to work for my health care.
Well, it's interesting because I started working when I was 11, and I didn't have the opportunity to receive great health care until I had a job. And it wasn't until I learned that Europe and Canada actually offered it for free that I was like, hold up, wait a minute, I'm paying all of this money for healthcare. Someone's got it right. We're supposed to be America. You know, we're supposed to be the forefront of everything. How come we can't
Isn't that crazy to think that? See, I feel like we do a lot for our country, so our country should do
what did she
a lot
say?
for us.
What did she say that was so controversial?
See, this is my favorite part of the Miss USA or any beauty pageant competition, because I feel like this cannot be easy to be up there and share your opinion on something so controversial. I get the frustration with it. I get the split about the healthcare issue. If it's a right, then a family might not have a hard time getting a heart for their little kid. But if it's a privilege, then a family could go bankrupt waiting for that heart for their kid.
Kids, but what they give free health care.
But what did she say?
Well, see, I feel like I think the crust of what she said was that if you work, then you should have health care, but you're not, health care is not a privilege. It is not, something that you should feel entitled to. But I will say this, I've worked for most of my life that I could work from 15 on. And I will say that just last year, I lost my job to no fault of my own. The company filed bankruptcy. I lost my job. I could not afford the COBRA that had to be paid. It was almost $700 a month. I had to get catastrophic insurance, which means that if I'm run over by a truck, I can get insurance, but I can't have it for anything else. So it's really hard so I'm not entitled to it, even though I've really been working in this country since I was like 15. I no longer am entitled because something happens just like that. I don't agree with that.
But do you think that she deserves the backlash that she's getting? Because she, no. I would never at that age be able to stand up the way that she did. And we should be commending her for that. And
25 years old.
And she's being attacked by, so-called feminists, but yet the feminists aren't supporting her. And she's a woman.
Feminists probably didn't even vote. So it's like they so want to jump on her about everything, but then when it comes to who makes these laws, who does this legislation, nobody shows up to the polls to vote.
But I feel like Miss USA, as well as like Miss America, it's very political. All of the questions that they ask them over time that we've known about, like, oh, I want world peace, and I want like everyone to be. They always answer questions like that. But I feel like, she did. She put herself out there, which I'm glad that she took a stance on something. I just don't agree with what she said.
Sure. Here's my question. I feel like we're gonna have more questions than answers about this. That's it. It's always going to be more questions than answers. But have we become a country that doesn't want to help one another?
Well,
that's my biggest question.
It's like whatever you say, you get attacked for.
Yeah.
It's like it's a Miss America pageant. She's not doing any legislation or anything. She's not a politician, and just everybody wants to jump on. You can't say anything. Everything's so politically correct.
You get dragged on social media.
I appreciate in a role model is someone having the courage to express themselves no matter what the environment is. So I applaud her. I mean, I think it's great that someone won the pageant who's not only beautiful, but she's educated, she's opinionated, she's strong, she's courageous. And at the end of the day, I think that's what's most important. Like, we're in this political climate, and we're talking about healthcare and all these things.
But should it be said at this time that, because right now we're in the middle of a big political healthcare debacle debate situation.
I think she's entitled to her opinion.
Would you be willing then, in fact, to pay more taxes in order to have the health care?
I absolutely would be willing to pay taxes for healthcare because it's going towards something that I believe in.
Yeah.
My taxes are leaving out now. When I look at my check, it's like $2,000-$3,000 less than whatever it's supposed to be. And it's going to things that I don't even know what it's going to.
What is that?
You know what I mean? So at least with this, if I'm helping to take care of everyone around me in this country, if I'm helping even, with sending kids to school, all of that kind of stuff, if my taxes are going to those things that we could consider universal, I'm fine with that.
That's exactly what I was saying earlier about shared responsibility. Are we becoming a country that does not want that shared responsibility?
Well, we're for profit, and so healthcare is for profit. All of the medication, everything is just becoming a big pool of what can we profit. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, if I'm drowning, I need help.
And like the same medications here that'll be like $300, you can go to Canada and they'll be like $20.
Right, exactly.
Well, I think aside from that, I think that we need to acknowledge the fact that this is a young woman who is standing up for her beliefs, whether we agree with it or not. And right or wrong, she's standing in her conviction, and it really doesn't matter if we don't like it. You know, they liked it enough to crown her, and
I think that's a role model.
Yeah, you know, I think one of the things that we can agree on is the fact that she stood up for what she believes in, win or lose, and that's something that I hope that my daughter will have the courage to do. So with that, we'll be right back.
There's more to come with the movement.
What did you expect from aging? For me, it's been a whole lot of surprises. And Jocelyn, I want to know what has surprised you the most.
I'm thinking what has surprised me the most is that I can't recover when I fall down. If I fall, like I used to be able to get up and just dust it off and down. It hurts the next day, and I can't recover. It's like I know there was maybe a couple of months ago or something. I was walking my dog, and there was it was wet leaves after it rained, and I slipped. I'm kind of clumsy, to be honest. But I slipped and I fell on my knee, and I'm like, I just get back up, and because I used to run off when I was a kid. The next day I was like, ow. Okay, so Brandi, what happened with you with the whole aging thing? What shocked you?
Okay, I was driving one day and started rubbing my chin and thought it was like, oh my God, there's something there. And the first time I freaked out. Like I was blown away.
What was it?
It was a hair. It's not supposed to be there. I was a woman.
That is so brave of you to share, Brandi. You're so brave.
No, hair starts popping out from everywhere.
Is it one hair or is
it was just one? And I'm like, damn, I couldn't grab it. So I was like, okay, you know what? I need to start carrying tweezers in my bag because I can't be out with my boo. And he looks at me and he's like, baby, you got something on your chin.
No, they should. No, that's real love. My husband, I get one right here on my nose, and my husband will just be like, come here.
No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't see that because we're perfect.
Exactly.
We are perfect. When you get up to use the restroom, you're going to powder your nose. We are perfect.
Sometimes it only glistens in the light. You don't see it.
No, that's tragic though. When you think about that stuff, like the hairs, and they come because I get one on the side of the mouth. Now that I was trying to keep it a secret, but no longer.
So brave.
But Natasha's sitting over there like, I don't know what you ladies are doing.
I've always been a wildebeest.
But what about so I want to ask, aside from all the beauty stuff that our body's changing, on the emotional side, is there something that you have found just internally that you like about aging?
Oh, yes. My confidence, I'm grateful for everything now. It's like I used to have to go out and be a big deal. Now I just so much appreciate my friends. Yeah. I just love my friendships, everything. I have so much more confidence. Like now when I look in the mirror, I'm like, oh my God, it's a beautiful goddess.
That's right.
I didn't feel that way.
Yeah. I was the same. Like it wasn't until I hit my 30s that I embraced my natural hair, to be honest. I couldn't leave the house without makeup in my 20s. I had to blow my hair out. It had to be straight all the time. Like I wanted to fit into society's standards of beauty. And I felt like, oh, I can rock this. But now I wake up in the morning, I take a shower, I let it go, I put on a little mascara, and I run out the door.
I feel like that goes into that confidence.
So
well, I'm not there yet, but I do love sex now. I have to say that. I am loving
You didn't
sex.
like it then?
No, I liked it then, but I thought I knew what I was doing. And now I'm like, I didn't know what I was doing back then.
Yeah.
Now I just feel more confident about myself. I feel like now I know what I want.
You know
I'm
how to
not
get to
afraid
that
to
orgasm.
communicate. Exactly, and I'm not afraid
You're
to
doing
communicate
it wrong.
I'm seeing a theme here with the confidence, because what you shared is a lot of confidence, and I thought that's so brave. And like, I feel like the older I'm getting, what you said about friends, it's that confidence is developing, and it's, I don't care about what people think anymore at all. And it's easier to meet people, and it's easier to walk away from people that you don't like.
And you're so young.
Right. Where are you getting that from?
I didn't get it at that
I'm getting
young.
older.
Natalie, where are you getting that from for your age? Because I wasn't there at your age.
I think it is talking to other people and surrounding yourself with good people and learning from people older than you or with more experience and all of that, and just listening to myself. Why impress other people? I've tried to do so many things in life for other people. Now I do everything for myself.
Experience is the key word. That's
Yes.
the one thing that is positive about aging, because you can't buy that.
Yes.
You know, like with age comes wisdom and maturity and growth. And that's what gives us that confidence. Like, you know, you're young, but you have a lot of life experience. You've seen a lot of things.
Yeah.
All of that matters when it comes to aging, because it
does.
It builds us into, you know, the women that we're supposed to be.
And now, like when I turn 40, like stuff does not bother me.
Right? That surprised me the first time I heard it.
I would wake up and be mad. I'd be mad all day. I didn't even know what I'm mad at. Now, like, no, I don't have
Not even
time.
worried about it.
Well,
No, the downside of it, I will say, is that I watch my parents get older. And that's hard.
Mortality becomes real.
Exactly, and obviously we attract flies. No, but I mean, really, like I watch my parents get older. I watch them not move as fast. I watch them need help. You know, things like that, and it affects me more than I thought it would, because I didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's been the hardest thing for me, is after I had my children, because time is going by way too fast, and it's hard. It's hard because I want to be here for them, you know.
Yeah. You will.
I'm such a mom, is what you said.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
That's my biggest fear about aging, because it's not from what's going on the outside, because I think I can hold it together. But it's like, it doesn't matter what I look like on the outside, my eggs are still old. And it's it's that fertility thing. Like, will I ever have kids?
Yeah.
I may not give birth. It's trying to shut itself down.
I know.
Fear
No,
of
don't
mine
shut
too.
down.
You know, that's something that you just don't think about until you hit, your mid-30s, approaching 40, like I am too. And I'm like, well, I don't know. There are still a lot of things I want to accomplish, but I can't keep pushing that back because my body is not going to wait for me. And that is terrifying.
It is terrifying.
So
That
scary.
clock that, which we all hate that, because it's kind of like being put in that box that we hate so much, that you have to like worry about when to do things. And I remember I was talking to one of my really good friends, and she's like, I'm partying in my 20s, have my family
that was
and kids
me.
in my
That
30s.
was me.
I'm gonna
That was me.
establish my career in my 40s. And I'm like, really? Because party in my 20s,
Yeah.
I did more of trying to establish my
Build
career in my
yourself in
30s, and now it's bled over. You know what I'm saying? Like, so really, I mean, it's really just about living life, but being aware that there's a time.
Well, and it's starting to, and that's what's happening, right? The older we get, we look at our mortality, and then we look at our hairs on our chin, and there's a whole lot going on, but we can chat more. We'll be right back.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What happens when our dream job goes wrong? Brandi, Michelle, you're laughing. But I know it wasn't a laughing matter for you. What happened with your dream job?
It was definitely my dream, but I was fresh out of college, moving to LA from Chicago. Entertainment Tonight. I wasn't prepared for the backstabbing and for the wolves.
Was it your first job? Like your first adult job?
Yes, that too, which was also a big deal.
Yeah.
Everything about it was a big deal,
Yeah.
because it was just me, pushing myself and encouraging myself. I wasn't prepared for people to come in like, why are you here? Leave.
That had to be a lot of pressure, though. How did you handle that, just being so young in an environment like Entertainment Tonight?
Well, you know what? On the one hand, I was prepared. That made a huge difference. I had been writing and reporting from the time I was a sophomore in high school. So on the one hand, I was ready. It was just the interpersonal things that I had never really experienced before. Like, I was used to conflict. I was always a fighter. So it wasn't really that. It's just when you talk about your dream job, there's a certain heightened sensitivity that comes with that. So when you're not getting the type of support that you desire, you're like, oh my God, what do I do now?
Right. And Natalie, you actually moved away from home, and you took a big risk. You were young as well.
I think my experience is sort of the opposite. I went from LA to a smaller town, so I was surrounded by really nice people.
Well, what town was it?
I had a hard time saying that because I love LA and I love the people in LA and LA is home. But I went to Nebraska and I didn't know what to expect, but they helped me kind of dip my toes in the water very slowly. I was lonely because I was chasing my dream. It was tough because I was far away from home, but the job itself wasn't like I was being fed to the sharks.
Right.
I think the one thing that I didn't realize is, you know, being an entrepreneur and trying to pursue my love for music and film, is that I would fall 7 times and have to stand up 8. You know, that's the one thing, that because there's so many times when you're following your dream that, you know, that for myself, I've wanted to give up on my dream because it's so hard. But now I have these children watching me and I cannot give up on this, you know, I'm determined. But I think that's the hardest thing is people don't tell you is how difficult that road is going to be.
Right.
You know?
And just how you do have to pull yourself back up again. Because I was the same way. I went out, I left town, I got this dream job I was really excited about. Mine only lasted for like 2 months and then it was over with. But the disappointment and embarrassment that I felt was, you know.
Because you have these huge expectations.
And everyone is excited for you.
Especially when you're younger, straight out of college, you're trying to prove yourself to everybody. Like, this has always been my dream. I'm going to do it and watch me nail it.
And it's a
Natasha,
fantasy.
But Natasha, you've had like jobs where you've left and you've done, so how has that been for you?
That's another thing that people don't realize is like, your dreams change. So you will have so many different dream jobs. I've had like 15 dream jobs. You know, some of them have ended up being nightmare jobs. But I'm so glad I went through it because I never failed. Like, you know, my last nightmare / dream job, I was so happy. You know, I was with this celebrity hairstylist. He was big. He was the craziest person I ever met. But one of the good things is from going through having so many dream jobs and knowing, hey, this isn't the only thing. Like if I had been younger, I might, you know, have stayed long, but I was like, oh no, we got to go.
Do you feel like you'd have regrets if you never chased your many dreams?
Many regrets.
Yeah.
Well, for like Tara, even with kids and a family, you know, because those are not things that I necessarily had to think about. But I know with kids and family, you know, the sacrifices that you make in order to fulfill your dreams. What are those like?
It's very difficult because it's not just my life that's being affected by it. There's the financial strain of following your dreams. There's the emotional side of it. I mean, there's times my kids will come up to me and they'll say, "Why are you crying?" Because of like what you said, you know, especially with this industry, you're constantly feeling like you have to prove your worth, and that is that can be so exhausting, you know. But I think it's also empowering. I think that because of that they will feel strong enough through the failures and through the loss to pursue what they want to do.
It's like living your life with no regrets and jumping the way that they all tell you that you need to jump. It's scary to jump, and can you recover from that jump? And I know for myself, it took a little while for me to get back on my feet even after that.
Same here, because I left entertainment tonight because I was listening to feedback from my family instead of following my heart. Right. So it took me years to get over that, because you look back and like, well, maybe I should have, or maybe I could have, or why didn't I? And, you know, I've learned to listen to my own voice. And I think that's what's really important, too, when it comes to talking about a dream job or dream anything, is that you can't let somebody else tell you, you know, what to do and how to do it.
What do you think are the biggest mistakes that we make, though?
That.
You have to follow your truth.
One thing
is trying to prove to other people.
Sorry, Natasha, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say one thing you never know, because when I had my first true dream job, September 11th happened, and I ended up leaving that to join the Navy. And like that's been the biggest dream and fulfilled so much for me.
Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Well, you know what? We're going to follow some more dreams when we come back and talk about it a bit more. We'll be right back.
Stay with us. There's more to come.
Are guns an equalizer? Natasha, you made a comment about guns being an equalizer. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
They are an equalizer, because you could be an old lady, 75 years old, and then some, you know, 20-year-old man that's 6'5", 250 pounds, he can come at you, but you can shoot him.
True that.
That evens the playing field.
Yeah. When did you, because I know you're trained, obviously, with guns, but when did that begin? But prior to being in the Navy?
My whole life, because I was raised by my grandmother, and my grandmother always had guns, so she was really into guns.
And then, of course,
she carried them in her purse.
Did you own a handgun prior to going into the military?
Oh yeah. First thing I did when I turned 18, I bought a gun. My grandma used to, you know, give me her guns too. But first thing I bought a gun, shotgun when I was 18. As soon as I turned 21, I got a handgun.
What's the feeling that you get? Like, I've never owned a gun. So what's the feeling that you get when you get a gun? Like, are you empowered? Do you feel?
I feel safe.
Control. Okay.
I feel safe. I'm taking my own safety into my hands. I'm single. I'm by myself. I drive around a lot at night, and when I have my gun with me, I feel like, I'm on an equal playing field to anybody else that wants to come at me.
See, to me, or what would you say to someone like me who's actually scared of guns? I grew up with guns being for hunting. My family did hunting. My grandfather owned a gun shop that he sold to people who hunted. But as I got older, you hear things on the news. You hear you hear accidents happening in homes, and you just sort of start developing this fear for it.
Well, accidents do happen, and I'm not, I love guns, but I'm not going to tell everybody else that they need to get a gun, because if you really are scared and you really are afraid of having an accident, then you shouldn't have one. For self-defense, you could still get, you could get a taser, you can get something else. If you want to try to get over your fear, maybe if you take a couple lessons, that might help. But if you still are...
I did that because I still do feel like it's important. It's important to know how to I don't know why, but I have this feeling like it's important to know if there's ever a gun around, I will know how to work
Brandi,
it.
Michelle, what do you think? I mean, what are your thoughts just on guns in general? Do you want to have it for self-defense? Do you want to learn how to shoot? Do you know how even?
Not legally.
Okay.
Well, you know what? I guess the biggest thing that comes to mind right now is all of the violence that's taking place across the country. I think about the kids, kids being 14 and 13 years old that have access to gun. Obviously, it's illegally. Nevertheless, there's such easy access. So I guess I'm just curious to know how you feel about that, and if you think that we should have stricter gun laws.
Well, stricter gun laws aren't going to take guns out the hands of criminals. So you have to protect yourself, because by the time the police get there, you could be shot.
That's for sure.
And also, too, another thing, if you have a weapon at your house for self-defense, it's not 100%, but it's much better to get hollow point bullets than it is to get full metal jacket bullets.
Well, what's the difference between the two?
Well, full metal jacket bullets, if they can go through a wall, or say you shoot somebody, they can go through somebody. But if you have a hollow, hit somebody on the other side, but a hollow point, whatever they hit, they shatter. So it's less likely.
Is that the fragments that they're talking about?
Okay.
Well, like when it comes to also who should not have guns, because I know that there's been a lot of talk about who should have them, who shouldn't. I know we're talking about as women, but when you talk about like the mental state of a person with a gun, what are your feelings about that?
Well, I mean, there's laws. Crazy people and people on drugs aren't supposed to have them. But then that's another reason you need to have one, because you need to protect yourself from those people.
Yeah.
One of the things that always concerns me, going back to your comment, was
About kids.
Yeah, I'm having a gun in the home, to me, for that reason, scares me. Where my husband would like to have a whole shelf of guns if he could. But that's my biggest concern, is just my children. And I'm curious if there are courses that children can take to learn proper gun safety, other than like their parent or somebody teaching them. And I don't know anything about that.
That would be most important for the parents. There also has to be a certain respect, because you have to respect a gun. You have to teach a child that, this is serious.
Yeah.
Also, too, you got to keep them locked away.
Yeah.
Because even when I have my friends' kids come over, I take a point to make sure that I put my guns away.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I've had a love-hate relationship, but I grew up in a neighborhood where drive-bys were normal.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like 11 or 12, and I was standing in my living room, and a bullet flew through the window and went right past me into the wall.
That's terrible.
I'm like, I'll never forget it, but I don't remember being afraid of it. I remember my family members shooting guns, New Year's Eve, and things like that. Right. So, like, I was never afraid of them, even though I knew the damage that, would be caused by them, especially, gangs and stuff like that, innocent people dying. I guess the most important thing for me is just training.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, that's what also just kind of even going back. I know I touched a little bit on it, but the thing that scares me also are the people that do have access to it. But I know there's like a whole debate now about whether the mental health aspect of it, and should they have guns, should they not? Because I think that scares a lot of people.
I do too.
Who's going to actually purchase these guns? And
I do too, but I think that there are a lot of people who should not have handguns that know how to get through the process. by being sane enough in order to receive one. And to go back what Natasha said, you know, even if you put these stricter, you know, gun laws in place, what about all of the unmarked or, you know, guns that are out there for sale? I mean, if they want a gun, they're going to find it.
And also, too, a lot of times, you know, as women, we just watch what's on TV, or you go to the gun store and they try to sell you something crazy. It's like, for self-defense, you don't need all that. Right. Like, you know, myself, because my military weapon is
I don't
different.
need the vest and I don't need the pants and all that.
You know, I just have a Lady Smith & Wesson .38 revolver, and that's perfect because there's no safety on that. It's not crazy.
Is that what you recommend?
I was just
going
going to ask.
That is what I recommend, because a lot of time, you know, like a Beretta, all those, somebody can grab it and just, you know,
You have no idea what
apart.
means. I heard you ask or say something. What, ladies?
Kids.
Yeah, that's the one I should
I
have.
always think of, like, I don't have children now, but if I had children, I'm thinking in the home, and I mean, I'm sure your husband goes out or is out of town or something like that. You want to be able to protect, you know, your children.
No, never.
So, like, what, you know, how does that make you feel with, you know, with maybe having a gun or purchasing this, let me get it, Smith & Wesson .38 special?
A lady Smith & Wesson .38 special.
For me personally, I would want to go through all of the training, to make sure that I know exactly how to handle it.
I guess at the end of the day, knowledge is power.
It is.
You know, even with kids, like, doesn't matter what the subject is. If you teach them at a very young age about everything, they'll be less intimidated, you know, to talk to you about things or to manipulate things.
So the recommendation is, if you're going to get a gun, take a class, learn about it first. We'll be right back.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
So here at the Movement, we're still trying to figure it all out. And one of the things that we're still trying to figure out are relationships. And we're lucky today to have Brandon here with us to talk to us about what happens when we need our own space and when we need our own time. And so, Brandon, that's the question that's right on the table. What is it about our own time that we need that scares us?
Yeah, I think, you know, in any relationship, people are going to need their alone time. And as a man, I feel a lot of pressure coming from you know, I'm married, I have a couple of children, I'm trying to keep the house together, I'm trying to keep the finances in order. And when I want my alone time, I don't want it to come off to my wife or to my children like I'm trying to escape, like I'm trying to get away from them. It's really, for me, it's about reconnecting with myself and doing something that I love.
Now, I used to really be afraid of that time that a man said, I need some space, or I want to hang out with my friends. I mean, to me, that meant the relationship was over. I don't know why. I just felt like something was wrong in the relationship. And I know a lot of women feel that way. But the pressures that you're talking about for men, like, how do men cope with those pressures? What do you guys typically do? I think that's what we don't understand.
Sure, absolutely. I think that's a great question. And for me personally, I think it's a very individualistic thing, right? So for me personally, I love baseball. So I coach high school baseball. I love running. So I'm going to go run, and that's going to help me clear my head. Meditation, you know, I like to meditate every day and keep that as a practice. So again, I think it is something where it's an individual basis. What can I do to be myself and be the best, you know, dad, husband, person, father
that you can be? And I think of some of the relationships that I've seen, because I know it changes a lot of times from a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship into marriage. And so what is that thing that really happens between the two? Because it's very different as a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship when you don't live together, and then when you are one in a marriage. So what is that happens that's different?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you know, I think there's a level of trust and a level of respect that's going to come with any relationship. And when you tie the knot and you become husband and wife, that should get even stronger. That love should grow even more. And I think couples, men and women, they need their individual space. They need their own time to go out and be themselves and be the person that they were prior to meeting their mate, prior to meeting their spouse.
And what do you feel afterwards? Because I know for myself, when I go to the spa or maybe go get a manicure or hang out with the girls and, you know, have lunch or something like that, I feel recharged when I come back to the relationship. I feel like I feel a little bit better. Sure. And so what do men feel like after you guys go do your man things?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it's just reconnecting with yourself and getting together as men and talking about life in general and how to live, and again, with the pressures of life, with the finance and the job and the family and everything, needing that time and that space just to regroup, really, and get your mind in the right place so when you do come back and you're with your family and you're with your kids, you're able to be the best man that you can be.
So from a man's perspective, because do you guys understand why women freak out?
I don't think so. I don't, personally. I mean, from my point of view, I don't. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, because I don't think we fully understand why we freak out either. I think a lot of it has to do with us tying our identity into the relationship. I always say that, like, women think of relationships as you know, being approved, you know, society approves of this. And so now I'm a part of a one where I feel like a man, it's a support system for him and you still operate outside of it.
Sure.
So I think that scares women.
I think that's absolutely something that could scare women. Yeah, is knowing that, you know, you hear your husband or, you know, I come home to my wife and I'm like, hey, babe, I really need some time just to go spend with my guys.
Well,
right?
let me flip it. Let me flip it and say that when a woman is asking for her time, because I know it may be a little less often that we do it, but when we do, what does a man feel that looks like? Are they just happy, like, cool, see you in a couple of hours? Or is it, you know, or is there some kind of concern that happens as well?
I don't feel any concern when my wife comes to me and says, I'm going to go off with my girls. I advocate for that. I actually push her to go be with her friends and do things away from the family. Because I know when I do that for myself personally, it just makes me that much better of a person. So when she comes back, I feel like she's revived, she's refreshed. And from my perspective, that just helps the whole family unit stay tighter and flow smoothly.
And that's what we want. We want that tight family unit. That is goals right there, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Brandon.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We'll be right back.
Thank you.
There is more to come with the movement.
There is a myth out there that eating healthy has to be costly. And as a mom on the go, I'm always searching for ways to make meals that are healthy and not break the bank. Natalie, what do you do as a businesswoman?
I believed that myth for the longest time. I think eating healthy is one of the biggest things that I splurged on. And it wasn't until I had to live on my own and then become an adult to start discovering ways to buy things that aren't expensive.
Because you didn't have to really deal with that,
No,
right?
you don't have to think about that when you're living with mom and dad.
Right. And now you're this sophisticated,
yes, thank you very much.
Beautiful
keep
woman.
it coming, keep it coming.
And you have to watch your account.
No, but on a serious note, it's where most of our money goes. Like you look at your bills and it's all food. And I started looking at my bills at the end of the week and I know, right? Mm-hmm. And trying to see if I can spend less and less while still eating healthy. I'm the biggest health nut ever, so I just discovered certain stores you can go to buy healthy stuff.
Buy healthy foods.
Yeah,
Brandi,
it's doable.
I want to know your take because we had an interesting conversation earlier. So
I mean, I think it's possible as long as you don't have an ego. Like when I
What do you mean?
moved out here,
What do you mean ego?
because when I first moved out here, my cousins were like, oh my God, you should go get certain things from the 99-cent store, et cetera. I was like, I'm not stepping into the 99-cent store to go grocery shopping.
Right, but that's a real, I can relate to that.
Yeah, like, and it wasn't until, you know, the economy crashed and everything went down with it that I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to save money. Yeah. You know, but it wasn't easy. But that's because growing up, you know, in a certain environment, I was like, okay, when I grow up, I'm going to make sure I do this and I have to do that. You know, so for me, it hit a soft spot. You know, it reminded me of having to struggle. Yeah. And I just didn't want that for myself.
So what are your tips? Like what are some tips that you have for somebody who wants to prepare a healthy meal on a budget without breaking the bank? Because there's this myth, right, that you can't buy organic or you can't buy these healthy foods without spending a ton of money.
Yeah, well, for me, I was really surprised at some of the items that I found at the dollar store, to be honest with you. Like, for example, you can get this vinegar from the dollar store, you can get salt from the dollar store, you can get any type of seasonings. You know, there are some dollar stores as well where you can actually get fresh fruit, which was very surprising to me. Yes, one of my girlfriends, she was cooking one day, we were in her kitchen, and I asked her something about one of her ingredients, and then she's like, oh yeah, and I got this stuff from the dollar store. I was like, really? And I had eaten it, so I didn't die, right? So I was like, oh my God, okay, that's good to know.
So I didn't die.
Yeah.
I didn't. This sounds terrible, but I didn't even know that there were discount grocery stores, and I discovered that living on my own and having to figure out a budget, and I had the same issue. It's put your ego aside, and or you know, I'd rather splurge on something else. I'm gonna spend my money on something else and save on food.
Shoes.
I think for me as a busy mom, and both of my children, excuse me, I have a hair in my lip. Both of my children are in sports, so we're never home, and we're not making dinner or eating until 7, 8 o'clock at night. So there's that, how can I get something in front of them without having to go to the store every single day, number one. And number two, not having to break the bank, you know? But I like this idea, and you're so right, you know, Brandi, about this, because these are like year supplies of items.
Yeah, and
I mean,
everyday stuff.
Exactly, I was just about to say the same thing. Like, who doesn't have salt, olive oil, and vinegar for starters? Yeah. You know, and what is this, sumac?
This one's a little more exotic, but you can find it at a lot of ethnic stores.
I do have a question though. Yeah. How do you make the healthy meal if you're in your kitchen and you've had a couple of glasses of wine. Because that's always mine, you know, because I love to have, and this is just, you know, girl talk, but I love to have my glass of wine when I'm cooking, but if I have two, I can never remember to go check
Can I tell you
my
about my most exciting discovery? You can even find wine at the discount store.
Shut up! Are you
Good
serious? Okay, I didn't
wine.
know that.
I
It's
did not know that
actually, and
either.
I'm a big wino.
Well, wait,
oh
what
my
store?
God. Grocery outlet.
Oh,
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God! So you can get
Yes.
wasted and make a good
And
meal.
the
all at
people who
grocery
work there
store, but
All
know
on a
their
budget.
wine.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah, it was my most exciting discovery.
That's
Or you
pretty
can,
awesome.
You can cook with it.
Yeah.
You can
yeah.
drink it and cook.
True.
Do they have does the like the 99-cent store? Do they have meat there or no?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
And I don't know that I would buy meat from the 99-cent store. Like more like boxed things or canned goods, because that stuff, I mean, they tell you to, you know,
But
stock
drive
up in
around
a
your
hurricane for
neighborhood
that.
and you're going to find a discount, some sort of
Yeah.
discount grocery store.
It's just like preparation, you know.
And put your ego aside.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Feed
Like
your
know
family.
And Tara,
where to
for-
buy what and what to buy where is really what it boils down to.
For what you said about being on the go, being a mom,
Yeah.
it's living out of Tupperware.
It is.
That's the best tip I can give you, living out of Tupperware.
Thank you, ladies. We'll be right back.
Thanks for watching The Movement. We may still be figuring it out, but we're doing it together.
We are.
We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Bye.
I'm Brandi Michelle, and I'm a part of The Movement, and you are too.